This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee frowns.
It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 32, Submission 184, The Bill Cullen Centennial Tribute. We're going to look at three shows that Bill hosted over the years. Not necessarily great shows, but three shows he did nonetheless. Well, let's start off by talking about Bill. I think most of our listeners know who he is, but he's the dean of game shows. I'm plain and simple. You give him a show, even if it's a bad show like the three shows that we're going to talk about, he turns lemons into lemonade. Would you agree with that, gentlemen?
Yes.
Indeed.
And he's hosted so many shows over the years, so many good shows. The original Price is Right, and I Guess, and Three on a Match, and Child's Play, and Joker's Wild. Oh, and some show that Gene Wood and Johnny Olson were pitching this week on Match Game Hollywood Squares. Hot Potato!
Hot potato!
Hot potato!
From Hot Potato, Bill Cullen.
And he's right there. So now I learned, it's like, how do you incorporate Bill Cullen into a show that requires walking?
You go to the future by 15 or 20 years, get a Segway, and there you go.
Indeed. Yes, that's how you do it.
Right.
You get Ed Begley's tortoise, and it does the rest.
That's exactly the answer I wanted to hear. You get Ed Begley's TARDIS, go ahead to about 2003 or 2004, get the Segway, go back to 1984, and there is Bill Cullen maneuvering this demonic device. So the first show we're going to look at is Winning Streak. Winning Streak aired on NBC from July 1st of 1974 to January 3rd of 1975.
You can double your money with every word, and you may win over $100,000, or you may go broke. The decision is yours. This is Winning Streak, starring Bill Cullen.
Hey, that's nice of you, Norm. Thank you. Hi. Hello. And hello. And hi there.
So what was Winning Streak about besides another Bob Stewart Bill Cullen collabo in a sea of Bob Stewart Bill Cullen collabos?
I was hoping you'd call it a Bill Cullen and Bob Stewart joint, sort of like a Spike Lee film.
Oh, yes!
Mike, joint is so 1991.
Well, collabo definitely isn't 1974, so I think we need to find a happy medium there. So what is Winning Streak? It's a mess. It really is. You have a little bit of blockbusters, and you have it's almost like three games in one, sort of. So you have the blockbusters part. You're given a board of 16 letters, and you're given a topic. And what you need to do is using those letters on the board only, and you can only use each letter once unless it's repeated on the board. So you could use, if there's like two O's or three O's, you can use three O's. But if there's only one L, you can't use more than that one L. And so you pick the letters blockbuster style, or not necessarily blockbuster style, but you pick letters, and Bill Cullen reads a question with an answer that starts with that letter. Not unlike blockbusters, which would come six and a half years later. So now the idea is, and here's where it gets a little convoluted and weird, is that if you get the question right, you can either not play the letter at all, or you've got a board in front of you using the little flippy letters you'd see at the airport, And I think there's 7 spaces, and you need to ultimately win the game. You need to create a word with those letters. And I think it has to be at least like a 3 or 4 letter word. So you can't use like a 2-letter word. You can't weasel your way out. So I'm guessing the optimum strategy here would be find as short of a legal word as possible, because if you had some category like U.S. states, okay, come up with the name of a U.S. state given these letters. You don't really want to go for Florida because that's 7 letters, when you could go with Iowa, which is 4, nice and short. And so you'd only need realistically 4 correct answers to win the game, again, hypothetically, in a perfect scenario. So that's just the qualifier. That doesn't even win you anything except the right to play the next round. And now here's where, again, we add on the absurdity level. So you've got blockbusters, then you're using the letters that you earn in this blockbuster format to spell the answers, and then you play a totally different game. So what this game was it started with it looked very reminiscent of the Press Your Luck board, where you've got 6 squares on the top row, 6 squares on the bottom row, and then on the left and right sides, you have 4 squares each. So you have that same 18-square board like you have on Press Your Luck. So you get to pick one of the top 6 values.
Woo!
And there's 6 values there. They range from $100 to $200. And so what the idea is you pick one, and let's say you pick $150 or $160, and for every right answer that you give in this round, the money doubles, and then doubles and doubles and doubles. So hypothetically, if you got 9 right answers, you could win or earn $100,000. Not necessarily win. We'll get to that in a second. And the way that you won each round is the remaining numbers, the 7 through 18, which would be 12 numbers, they had different letters of the alphabet. And so you call the letter, it's revealed, and you have to say a word that contains that letter. And the object is you don't want to repeat. So if you had the letter G first, you'd say go. Or you'd say egg. Or you'd generally go for a small word first, because obviously small words, they're not going to help you out when you get to 5 and 6 letters that you need to use. So, as I said, you don't win anything at this point, because now, first off, if you don't have a valid word, you lose. So you got to play it very strategically, but also at any time you can stop. So if you're happy with, let's say, doubling your $150 3 times, which would be 4 right answers, 150 for the first, then 300, 600, 1,200. Then, okay, there's $1,200 in there, but now we need to go back and do the whole thing over again, where we go to that board and we play blockbusters-ish, and then somebody has to spell a valid answer to whatever that category is, and then we repeat this cycle all over again with the second player, where pick a dollar amount, and then we'll go pick one of the 12 remaining squares for the letter, and again, play until you stop, or you ultimately get it wrong. And in that case, if you ever bombed out of the bonus game, your opponent automatically won. So I'm guessing it doesn't matter if it's the first person who plays or the second, which would really, well, you're sort of playing against the house if you're the second person. So that's not too bad, but obviously if you lose there, you could have had, your $1,200 in your pocket, but you decide to risk it. And then what happens is, if both people stop with their money, they go into a showdown. They play the same whole thing again, except you're not picking dollar amounts. You're just picking letters, and you're going back and forth. And the idea is whoever misses or gives an invalid word loses, and the person who survives wins both amounts of money. So that's why I said you can't. If you get the $100,000, you haven't won it yet until you beat your opponent in that other round. So the opponent could win the $100,000. Again, hypothetically. And this show is just so bland and boring and confusing, but also
there's a rule in. I was about to say there's a rule in game show development. I believe Mark Goodson's the one who first proposed it. If you can't describe it in one sentence, it's too complex. And this looks like you're going on in paragraphs.
Well, there's also a certain acronym, KISS. Keep it simple,
Keep
stupid.
it simple. Keep it simple, dumbass. I mean, stupid.
Right. Well, but there's also one other little thing. You remember last week we talked about Beat the Clock back in 1979 and 80, and we added the celebrities, and we talked about the really major part of the gameplay that changed, that the money got cut.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? This was redone later in the show, and the money was cut. So instead of the double, you just earned whatever you picked in that top row for each letter you added. So there goes the chance at $100,000, unless somehow there's 500 letters up there that you could play. It reeks of Bob Stewart being a little cheap, but also maybe, and again, we don't know if this ever happened, and we'll mention why in a moment. Maybe somebody took Bob Stewart and NBC for $30,000, $40,000 on one game. You never know. I mean, it really depends what letters are on the board. You know, if you get like some ING-ED combination, something inged, that's probably not too hard to find, 8 letters that you could say, rehinged or something, or something inged, or de-blanking. So, I mean, it's all hypothetical, but yeah, there had to be a reason that they cut the money, and I bet you it's because somebody took them for a good amount.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the show itself, and how there's a lot of conjecturing here. The main reason is because there is known to be one full episode which exists. There's a snippet of another episode, but there's one complete episode known to exist. And Greg, you mentioned earlier before we started the story of that episode. Do you want to share that with everybody?
Yes, and this is from the website BillCullen.net, which is a fine website detailing the career of Mr. Cullen, and it's created by 2 people we know very well.
Yes, good friends of the podcast, Matt Ottinger and Adam Neediff. Thank you guys. You guys are doing great work on your site, and please go visit them, BillCullen.net. Okay, Greg, what's the story about the single episode?
Okay, so the episode of Winning Streak that survives is from August 9th of 1974, which would have been the day that Richard Nixon resigned. So Adam and Matt's theory is that the episode was originally preempted for news coverage and ended up in some different stack of tapes that survived when others were destroyed. So the most widely seen remnant of Winning Streak is an episode that pretty much did not air on the date it was supposed to air.
So yeah, I mean, this series would be pretty much entirely wiped if it wasn't for Richard Nixon. So thank your tricky dick wherever you are.
Thanks, I guess.
Well, at least we get to see it. I mean, that's sort of a positive.
Hey, I'll let Dick know on his parody Twitter account.
Oh, jeez. Well, that was Winning Streak. Next up, we're going to talk about Bill actually not really in a game show situation, even though it's sort of classified as a game show. He hosted a show back in 1978 called The Love Experts. The Love Experts aired in syndication, daily syndication, from September 18th of 1978 to September 7th of 1979.
For pretty Linda Kalina, night and day has become night or day. Kristen Gunderson is a tall blonde with a very interesting short story. And can you picture Muffy Durham in a see-through apron? They're all here to tell their stories to Joanne Worley, Jeff Edwards, Elaine Joyce, and Soupy Sale on The Love Expert, starring Bill Cullen.
Thank you all. Yay, well, what the heck? You sing one, you sing them all, I always say. Thank you, Jack, and thank you, and welcome to The Love Experts.
We mentioned that The Love Experts wasn't really a game show. It was like a talk show with the game show, but
it was a talk show that, in the tradition of Cheap, it was a talk show that thought it was a game show, or it was a game show that thought it was a talk show. You have two people who brought in two people or two groups of people.
No. You had three.
Oh, three. My mistake. Three. You have a group of people who are competing to have the most outrageous true story of true love, and they brought it to a panel of love experts, which were nothing more than just celebrities who are making the rounds at the time.
Some of which included a young David Letterman, Elaine Joyce, Joanne Worley, Jeff Edwards, Jay Johnson, Billy Crystal, Anita Gillette, Soupy Sales, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Nipsey Russell.
Wow, what a group.
Yeah, and actually the episodes that are online, I think every one of them has David Letterman and Jeff Edwards, and I think possibly they also have Elaine Joyce and Joanne Worley. Going through the list of names I mentioned earlier, I don't remember seeing Anita Gillette. I don't remember seeing Nipsey Russell, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jay Johnson, any of those folks.
Okay, now hold on. I'm going to stop you right there, because Rhonda Shear, who's actually on an episode of The Love Experts, posted her segment on her YouTube account, which is, by the way, still a really good YouTube account. And one of the panelists, I believe David Letterman, was on that same panel, but so is Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well, I was talking about the full episodes. I know her segment is in there, and she actually talks about that. But in terms of full episodes, I do believe that David Letterman, Elaine Joyce, Joanne Worley, Jeff Edwards are the celebrities on the shows that are online. And also, I'll take partial blame for this because these are shows that I originally purchased back off. They're originally shows I purchased off of eBay back around like 2000, 2001. So, you're welcome, America.
You're responsible for that.
I'm responsible for everything. I'm responsible for Love Experts. I'm responsible for Malcolm. Future installment, by the way. I'm responsible for everything. Just place all your blame right at my shoulders.
Yeah, I've been blaming you for almost 20 years about Malcolm.
And I'm sure you're gonna have a good time when we talk about it soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time, all right.
Yeah, well, for somebody, I think. So you'd have three guests appear and talk about their love lives, and they were odd situations. I can only imagine some of the stories there'd be nowadays, since people are a little more free and open with their, different type of relationship statuses and fetishes and stuff like that. But it was typical, like 70s fare in terms of, swapping partners, or I have a male roommate, and also I live with my sister, so me and my sister are fighting over the roommate or something like that. And the celebrity panel would choose which of these three guests had the most interesting story, and they would win a prize. So it's not unlike, let's say, Queen for a Day, maybe, where not necessarily the best sob story one, but just overall the most interesting or the best story one. before the big winner of the day was revealed, there would be a Q&A session with the audience where Bill sort of moderated it, and the audience would actually ask the celebrities or Bill himself for advice regarding relationships.
Yeah.
It's not particularly interesting or fun, but it's definitely something.
Yeah.
Yep. It was definitely a thing on TV. That's for sure.
It was. And you know what else was a thing on TV?
What else was the thing?
The last entry of the day.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yep, here we go. Pass the Buck. Pass the Buck aired on CBS from April 3rd of 1978 to June 30th of 1978 for 62 episodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, these four players are about to make instant decisions under pressure. Only the last survivor will win the game and all the money on Pass the Buck with your host, Bill Cullen.
And really, I, even though this show lasted 62 episodes, I really think, honestly, this is like Bill's most underrated show. I think he really enjoyed this. He was very funny in it, very quick with the one-liners. So what Pass the Buck is a variant of Pyramid, kind of, sort of. And what we mean by that, you have 4 contestants, and by doing this 3 times, you're going to get down to 1 contestant who goes to the bonus game. And what happens is Bill Cullen gives a topic, and you have to give an answer that fills the criteria of that topic. Now, it isn't necessarily as simple as name a fruit or name a state capital. Oh, no. It might be something like, and this is actually one that was used on the show, you had to make a 4-letter sentence. The first word had to be somebody's name, and the 4th word had to rhyme with that person's name. So for example, and this is one that was on the show, Dick has a stick. So what happens is that the bank starts out at $100, and every valid answer gets $25 added to that bank. And play goes down the line, down a row, and then once they get to the end of the row, it repeats back to the beginning of the row, and lather, rinse, repeat until you get a wrong answer or an answer that isn't acceptable. Then the next person in line has to give an acceptable answer to add $25 more to the bank, but also knock out the person that got the wrong answer. And then that losing contestant goes to a bullpen, but isn't out of the game. We'll get to that a little bit later. So the game repeats with 3 players, new category, give right answers until you get an incorrect or unacceptable answer. The next person in the line can knock you out. So you're down to 2 people. Again, $25 for each answer added to the existing bank. And then you repeat that again with the 2 people, going back and forth until one of them gives an unacceptable answer. If the remaining contestant can give a correct answer, they win, again, another $25 in the bank. But they win the entire bank, and that generally could be anywhere from about $600 or $700 up to about $1,000, $1,100, depending on the difficulty of the questions. But also, if you're in a situation where the person before you gave an incorrect answer, if you give an incorrect answer, you're in jeopardy too. So it's possible, and it did happen on the show a few times, where 2 people got knocked out by a 3rd person giving a correct answer. So if you can't give a correct answer yourself, you're in jeopardy, you're at risk, and you'll be off to the bullpen. Or same thing I would assume would happen if 3 people got a wrong answer, 1 person gets it right, they win everything. But if all 4 people, I don't know what would happen there if all 4 got it correct. They'd probably all stay in and just play it over again, or it would be edited out. This show was...
It was complex.
It was.
It wasn't complex. Actually, I was going to talk about the humor factor. This show was,
it was very funny.
This show was very funny. And actually, again, we're going to talk about BillCullen.net. We're going to talk about our buddy Adam and our buddy Matt. There is an over 26-minute video of highlights from Pass the Buck, including numerous episodes which haven't been seen since 1978, because Game Show Network did air it for a brief while on weekends back in 1997 and I think 1998. And I think they got maybe about 25 episodes in, 24 episodes in. So there were still a good almost 3 dozen or so episodes that hadn't aired. And I personally know that one of the episodes that didn't air that is on this highlight package is from the final episode of Pass the Buck, from episode 62. So definitely go take a look at that highlight video. It'll have you laughing. But now we haven't even gotten to the bonus round. The one survivor of that bonus round, this is sort of like your reverse pyramid, where you're given the category and you need to give answers that fit that category. The bonus game is played on a board that looks like a right triangle with 4 boxes on the bottom row, 3 on the second row, 2 on the third row, and 1 on top. And the idea was, behind those boxes are different answers which fit this category. If you can either clear all the answers in a row, regardless of the row, whether it's the first, second, third, or fourth, or if you can get one answer from every level correct, you win $5,000. And if you get none of the answers right, game is over, but you win $100 for each box you uncovered. But also at the same time, the people that are in the bullpen go back into the game. So we start again with the same 4 players. If you win the bonus, the $5,000, you stay on the show. The 3 people who lost out in that preliminary round, they leave the show. And there seemed to be times that people would be on this show for close to a week, maybe even longer. Maybe they played 6 or 7 games, because you would see contestants, and I believe this is on the highlight package that I mentioned earlier, where you'd have contestants where your champion might have won like $8,000 or $12,000, and each of the other 3 contestants who's not the champion has won something, whether it's like $600 or $1,500. The money got spread around pretty well around here, as long as somebody didn't win the bonus round, because if you kept on coming back, your odds of making more money sort of went up, so you wouldn't leave empty-handed necessarily. So so the idea is in the Fast Bucks, the bonus round, the 4 levels has 4 answers. There's generally like 3 really simple answers, and then there's 1 that's obscure. Same thing with the third level, except there's 2 really easy answers and 1 obscure one. There's always 1 obscure one. Same on the second level, 1 easy, 1 obscure, and the top answer, that is a toughie.
Define toughie.
Well, do you want to win $5,000? They're not going to just hand it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Also of note, this was Bill Cullen's last show in New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
And notable, where was Pass the Buck taped?
It was taped in the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Oh,
that's right. The future home of The Late Show with David Letterman and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
And you could sort of see the staging there. You can imagine Letterman, where Letterman would be sitting, where Paul Schaefer and the band would be sitting. You can sort of visualize that when you see that studio, and just, again, how big it is. But also when you look at the audience, when they show audience shots, you almost have to say to yourself, oh my gosh, that's the exact type of seating that the Letterman show used, and Colbert. And it had the same exits, same locations. I mean, I know they did vast updates before Letterman started recording there back in '93, but you could still see, watching these shows, the exits are in the same places, obviously, but it's almost like Letterman didn't change much, even though, I remember the footage from back in the day where they took out all the old seats, put in the new seats, and refurbished the Ed Sullivan Theater for the Letterman show. But you can tell, you can sort of picture where everything was with Letterman when you're watching Pass the Buck.
Yeah.
But this was one of the last shows of a dying breed, game shows in New York, which we'll sort of cover in our next topic.
Yeah, we will. But we'll talk about that in a second. Oh, Chico, would you like to sign us off?
Okay, so not everything Bill Cullen touched turns to gold, although he did try and make it work as best he could. Shows like Jokers, Blockbusters, Hot Potato, those were all gems. But if you want to talk about Winning Streak and Pass the Buck, you know what you'd be talking about?
They were things on TV.
Just things on TV.
And the Love Experts, too.
And the Love Experts, that was a thing on TV, too.
We could have done other shows, but we specifically chose these three shows in this quasi-tribute to Bill Cullen's 100th birthday, coming up on this coming Tuesday, the 18th of February. Again, I want to give huge thanks to Adam Nedeff and to Matt Ottinger. They have the definitive Bill Cullen page, and they're constantly adding stuff. I know that recently Adam acquired some videotapes from the collection of Bill Cullen himself, and he's gotten photos and other items from, not necessarily, well, we'll say the estate of Bill Cullen. It's more the estate of Jack Nars, but again, if in case you don't know, Jack Nars and Tom Kennedy, for that matter, were brothers-in-law of Bill Cullen. So we're keeping it in the family, if you will. So yeah, definitely, they're always adding really good stuff there. They're always posting really cool finds on their Facebook page. Again, go visit them. They are at BillCullen.net.
BillCullen.net. And tell them that the folks that It Was a Thing on TV sent you.
It won't get you anywhere, but you can tell them that we sent you over there.
And also, if you go to the Pass the Buck page, there's a really cool shot of the Ed Sullivan Theater marquee with Pass the Buck on the marquee.
We just love the David Letterman show.
We really
No, that's another entry, but not that.
That is another entry. Yes.
We love the Late Show with David Letterman era, especially Pat and Kenny read all the transcripts. But that'll be on another show.
and we like Late Night with David Letterman, and specifically we like Father Biff.
Oh yes,
hey,
but that's another show for another time.
Okay, well, before we go out to Rupert's Hello Deli and get some pastrami, we just want to plug the website, itwasathingontv.com. There you'll find all of our social media feeds, past episodes, and of course, links to where all fine podcasts can be streamed, because you will find It Was a Thing on TV there as well. Including, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, of course, and of course our good friends at the Place to Be Nation.
That's right. There's all of our back catalogs coming up slowly every Wednesday. The latest drop on Wednesday was this past Wednesday was Flying High, the Star Wars Holiday Special, and guess what? Mystery Diners.
Okay, so they're up to Christmas, so they're less than 2 months away. Okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah, we're slowly getting there.
We'll be there by hopefully before summer, so good.
Yeah, and well, it helps. We'll have that break too.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, guys, you guys are going to go to the Hello Deli. I'm going to Rock America to see Mujibur and Sierra Joel. See you next time.
with another thing on TV.
Wow!
Dick has a stick.
From hot potato, Bill Cullen.